70 years ago, in the waters near China, countless bodies floated every day. These were people attempting to escape from China to Hong Kong, chasing the dream of a better life. At that time in China, many could not even fill their stomachs for 2 meals a day. Education was considered a crime. Attending school required special permission. People had lost even the last hope of survival. Communism was gradually destroying China. Yet, something remarkable happened afterward, something that allowed China to rise as the second largest economy in the world in just 40 years. Napoleon once said that China was a sleeping giant. The giant, once weakened and oppressed, would eventually awaken with force. The story I'm about to tell is not just about statistics or policies. It is about the courage, resilience, and determination of millions of ordinary people who shaped the destiny of a nation. I'm Mithan, and you're watching Romanchopedia. Over the next 28 minutes, I'll take you through the untold story of China's transformation, from despair to global dominance. This story is not just history, it's a lesson in human endurance, innovation, and strategic vision. It's about how an entire nation turned its miseries into opportunities, overcoming famine, political restrictions, and social unrest. The China we see today, thriving, industrialized, and influential, was once a country on the brink of collapse. Imagine rivers filled with those who tried to escape, education criminalized, and hope itself restricted. Yet, within a few decades, through reform, trade, and relentless ambition, China not only survived, but thrived. This narrative will explore the policies, the struggles, and the turning points that brought the sleeping giant to life. In the decades following the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, China faced unprecedented challenges. Millions had perished from famine, political purges, and economic mismanagement. Cities were empty, rural areas were struggling to feed their populations, and the nation's infrastructure was in ruins. Roads, bridges, and factories lay abandoned or poorly maintained, while generations of children had missed out on education and skill development. Yet, in the midst of despair, a small but critical shift began to take place. Deng Xiaoping, a visionary leader, recognized that China's stagnation was not inevitable. He understood that survival alone was insufficient. Prosperity required innovation, trade, and openness to the world. In 1978, China embarked on a journey that would change its trajectory forever, the open-door policy. Special economic zones were established in coastal cities like Shenzhen, Zhuhai, and Xiamen. These zones became laboratories for market reforms, foreign investment, and industrial experimentation. Small factories began to sprout, producing goods for both domestic use and export. Slowly, China started to reconnect with global trade networks from which it had long been isolated. This period was not without its risks. Many political conservatives feared that opening the economy would undermine communist ideology. Rural populations were initially skeptical, as they had lived under strict state control for decades. Yet, incentives for farming, business, and trade were gradually introduced, giving people the motivation to innovate, work harder, and think beyond subsistence survival. Agricultural reform, particularly the household responsibility system, allowed families to keep and sell surplus crops. Farmers who had once barely survived began to experience modest prosperity. China's transformation was also technological and educational. Though formal education had once been a crime or a privilege, the post-1978 era prioritized literacy, science, and technical skills. Universities reopened, research institutes were revived, and the government invested heavily in cultivating talent for industries such as manufacturing, engineering, and electronics. Young Chinese, once denied opportunity, now found pathways to contribute to a growing economy. This economic miracle did not happen overnight. It was painstaking, incremental, and fraught with setbacks. Yet, by the late 1980s and early 1990s, the results became impossible to ignore. Coastal cities flourished, exports skyrocketed, and millions of people migrated from rural villages to urban centers in search of work. The global community began to take notice. China was no longer a distant, struggling nation. It had awakened, and the world economy was about to feel the impact. China's story in this era is not just about policies or economics. It asks about human resilience. Families who had once feared starvation now found opportunities to thrive. Entrepreneurs who had been constrained by ideology discovered freedom to innovate. Students who had once been denied education now became engineers, scientists, and business leaders, fueling the country's rapid industrialization. The foundations of China's global rise were being laid, quietly but relentlessly, amid the hum of factories, the flow of new ideas, and the determination of millions to seize a better future. By the 1990s, China's economic transformation was accelerating at an astonishing pace. The special economic zones had proven the power of market-oriented reforms, and the government expanded these policies across the country. Urbanization surged as millions of rural residents migrated to cities in search of better-paying jobs. Cities like Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou became epicenters of industry, finance, and trade. Skyscrapers rose from previously barren landscapes, and factories churned out textiles, electronics, and machinery at a scale the world had never seen before. Foreign investment poured into China, attracted by its low-cost labor and growing consumer market. Global companies established factories and offices, integrating China into international supply chains. This influx of capital and technology accelerated industrialization, improving productivity and creating millions of jobs. As the nation industrialized, infrastructure projects multiplied. Highways, railways, ports, and airports were constructed or upgraded, linking cities and regions in ways unimaginable just decades earlier. The once isolated economy was now deeply interconnected, both internally and globally. Education and human capital played a crucial role in sustaining this growth. After decades of neglect, schools and universities reopened and expanded. Students now had access to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics programs, producing a skilled workforce ready to support the country's industrial ambitions. Research and innovation became national priorities, fueling advancements in electronics, telecommunications, and eventually artificial intelligence. China was no longer merely a manufacturer of cheap goods. It was becoming a center of innovation and technological development. Social changes accompanied economic growth. Millions of families experienced improved living standards, with access to electricity, clean water, better housing, and healthcare. Consumer culture began to flourish, and domestic demand for goods and services surged. People who had once struggled for survival now aspired to own homes, vehicles, and modern appliances. While challenges like income inequality and environmental strain emerged, the sheer scale of progress was undeniable. China's leadership maintained a delicate balance between economic liberalization and political control. The Communist Party retained centralized authority while allowing market forces to operate within defined boundaries. This hybrid approach enabled rapid growth without losing political stability, a model that fascinated economists and policymakers around the world. By the turn of the millennium, China had transformed from a nation of scarcity and repression into a powerhouse of manufacturing, trade, and emerging technology. The transformation was visible not only in cities, but also in culture and mindset. A new generation of Chinese citizens grew up with opportunities their grandparents could scarcely imagine. Ambition, entrepreneurship, and innovation became key drivers of societal progress. Young people dared to dream big, inspired by the tangible proof that persistence, skill, and risk-taking could lift entire families out of poverty. China's rise was no longer a story confined to its borders. It was a global phenomenon. Economists, journalists, and world leaders watched as the country rapidly moved up the ranks of the world's largest economies. A nation once written off as struggling and backward had re-emerged as a formidable global actor, a testament to resilience, reform, and long-term vision. As China entered the 21st century, its economic and geopolitical presence on the world stage expanded dramatically. Joining the World Trade Organization, WTO, in 2001 marked a pivotal moment, opening global markets to Chinese goods and services. Exports surged, and multinational companies increasingly relied on Chinese factories to produce everything from electronics to apparel. Trade hubs like Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou became global gateways, connecting China's booming economy to the wider world. China's rapid industrialization also fueled urbanization at an unprecedented rate. Mega cities emerged, housing tens of millions of residents each. High-rise apartment complexes replaced traditional homes, while advanced metro systems and expressways transformed daily life. People migrated from rural villages to urban centers in search of better opportunities, creating a labor force that became the backbone of China's manufacturing dominance. This urban migration reshaped society, instilling a sense of possibility and ambition that had been absent in previous generations. Technology became a core pillar of China's growth strategy. Investments in research and development skyrocketed, with the government actively encouraging innovation in fields like telecommunications, renewable energy, artificial intelligence, and biotechnology. Companies like Huawei, Tencent, and Alibaba emerged as global leaders, showcasing China's ability to compete on both quality and scale. No longer was China merely the world's factory. It was a hub for innovation and high-tech production, with the capability to shape global trends. China's infrastructure transformation also continued at breakneck speed. The country invested in massive high-speed rail networks, airports, and highways, effectively knitting together vast regions that had once been isolated. Mega projects like the Three Gorges Dam not only addressed energy needs, but also symbolized China's technological and organizational capabilities. Ports expanded to accommodate unprecedented volumes of shipping, cementing the nation's role as a key node in global trade. Education and talent cultivation remained central to the country's rise. Universities and research institutions trained a new generation of engineers, scientists, and entrepreneurs. Scholarships and exchange programs allowed Chinese students to study abroad, bringing back knowledge and global perspectives. This influx of expertise helped bridge gaps between domestic capabilities and international best practices, accelerating technological and economic progress. China's global influence extended beyond economics. Its political and diplomatic presence strengthened through initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative, which sought to build infrastructure and trade links across Asia, Africa, and Europe. China's investments in foreign markets not only promoted economic ties, but also fostered strategic relationships, positioning the country as a central player in global affairs. Despite these achievements, challenges persisted. Environmental degradation, social inequality, and the pressures of sustaining rapid growth posed complex problems. Yet the country demonstrated an ability to adapt and innovate in response to these issues. Renewable energy projects, urban planning reforms, and technological solutions began to address environmental and societal pressures, reflecting China's commitment to long-term sustainability. By the 2010s, China had firmly established itself as a global economic powerhouse. Its rise was not only measured in GDP figures or industrial output, but in its ability to shape global commerce, technology, and culture. The world's perception of China shifted from a struggling, impoverished nation to a vibrant, influential, and ambitious country, capable of competing on every front. China's journey illustrated the power of resilience, vision, and strategic reform. From a past marked by famine, repression, and isolation, it had emerged as a dynamic modern nation poised to define the 21st century. The dream of a better life that once drove desperate migrants across treacherous seas had become a reality on a national scale, inspiring generations worldwide to believe in the transformative potential of determination and innovation. By the mid-2010s, China's transformation had reached a stage where the world began to take notice not just of its economic power, but also its technological and cultural influence. Cities like Shenzhen, Beijing, and Hangzhou had become hubs of innovation, where startups and tech giants alike competed on a global scale. The country's investment in artificial intelligence, robotics, and 5G networks positioned it as a leader in the technological revolution that was reshaping industries worldwide. The rise of e-commerce and digital platforms fundamentally changed how people lived and worked. Companies like Alibaba and JD.com redefined retail, enabling millions of Chinese consumers to shop online, access financial services, and even receive goods delivered by drones. Mobile payment systems became ubiquitous, reducing the need for cash and streamlining everyday transactions. This digital ecosystem transformed not only the economy, but also daily life, making China one of the most connected and tech-savvy societies on the planet. China's focus on education, research, and talent cultivation created a generation of skilled professionals capable of competing internationally. Universities emphasized STEM education, entrepreneurship programs, and collaboration with global institutions. Thousands of students studied abroad and returned with expertise, fueling domestic innovation. Startups flourished, supported by government initiatives and venture capital, turning ideas into global products. In fields like biotechnology, renewable energy, and high-speed rail, China was no longer a follower but a leader setting global benchmarks. Infrastructure development continued at an almost unbelievable pace. High-speed rail networks connected the country's vast territory, shrinking travel time and enabling rapid business growth. Mega cities incorporated smart technologies, traffic monitoring systems, automated waste management, and intelligent public services to improve urban life. Ports expanded further, and airports transformed into international hubs, allowing China to maintain its central role in global logistics and trade. China's global influence extended into diplomacy and geopolitics. The Belt and Road Initiative connected dozens of countries through infrastructure investment, trade, and strategic partnerships. Through these initiatives, China strengthened relationships with Asia, Africa, and Europe, providing loans, building roads, and constructing ports. These projects not only enhanced trade but also expanded China's soft power, allowing it to influence global policy and economics without direct confrontation. However, this rapid rise also brought challenges. Environmental concerns, such as air pollution, water scarcity, and soil degradation, required immediate attention. Urbanization created social pressures, including housing shortages and income inequality. The government responded with targeted policies, promoting renewable energy, urban planning reforms, and social welfare programs. These efforts reflected a willingness to balance growth with sustainability, an approach critical for maintaining long-term stability. Culturally, China's global presence grew through film, literature, and technology. Chinese media and entertainment began reaching international audiences, reflecting the nation's stories and perspectives. Confucian values, entrepreneurial spirit, and modern innovation intertwined, creating a unique cultural identity that blended tradition with progress. By the end of this period, China had evolved into a multi-dimensional superpower. Its rise was not only a story of economic might, but also of resilience, adaptation, and vision. From a nation that once struggled with famine, poverty, and oppression, China had become a dynamic global leader, shaping the world through technology, trade, culture, and diplomacy. The journey that began with desperate attempts to survive across treacherous waters had transformed into a national narrative of ambition, innovation, and global influence, a testament to what determination and strategic vision can achieve. As China entered the late 2010s and early 2020s, the country faced a new set of complex challenges, balancing its rapid development with social, environmental, and political realities. One major focus was sustainability. For decades, industrial growth had come at a severe environmental cost. Air quality in many major cities, water pollution in rivers, and soil degradation in agricultural areas became pressing issues. The government launched extensive programs to transition to clean energy, promoting solar, wind, and hydroelectric power. Electric vehicles gained massive popularity, and China emerged as the world leader in renewable energy production, exporting technology and expertise worldwide. Urbanization remained another critical challenge. Megacities like Shanghai, Beijing, and Guangzhou continued to expand, creating pressure on housing, transportation, and public services. Smart city initiatives sought to address these problems with AI-driven traffic management, energy-efficient buildings, and advanced healthcare systems. Even as cities modernized, rural areas faced depopulation and economic stagnation, prompting policies to improve education, healthcare, and infrastructure outside urban centers. This dual focus aimed to reduce the growing urban-rural divide and ensure equitable development. The rise of technology also brought geopolitical complexities. China's advancements in 5G, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and military technology drew global attention and concern. While these innovations propelled the country forward economically and strategically, they also created tensions with the United States, Europe, and neighboring nations. Trade disputes, cybersecurity concerns, and territorial issues in the South China Sea became recurring themes, requiring careful diplomacy. China responded with a mix of assertive foreign policy and economic incentives, aiming to secure its interests while avoiding large-scale conflict. At the same time, China's domestic governance and social policy evolved. The government emphasized stability, economic reform, and national identity. Policies addressing poverty alleviation were among the most ambitious in modern history. Over 800 million people had been lifted out of extreme poverty in a few decades, an achievement unprecedented in scale and speed. Social credit systems, digital governance, and surveillance technologies improved efficiency and public management, but also sparked debates about privacy, freedom, and personal rights. Culturally, China increasingly projected soft power globally. Film, music, literature, and digital platforms promoted Chinese stories and values to international audiences. Confucian traditions combined with modern entrepreneurship and technological innovation created a unique global image. Education and research exchanges with foreign universities expanded, cultivating a generation of globally connected Chinese professionals who contributed to science, technology, and global business. In the economic realm, China shifted from a manufacturing-based economy to a more innovation-driven model. High-tech industries, services, and intellectual property became central to growth. Startups flourished in fintech, biotech, renewable energy, and artificial intelligence, supported by both government initiatives and private capital. This structural transformation aimed to sustain growth while reducing dependency on traditional heavy industries and exports. Despite challenges, China's narrative was now one of resilience, innovation, and strategic foresight. From the desperate migrants crossing dangerous seas decades ago to the architects of modern infrastructure, digital technology, and global diplomacy, the country had transformed profoundly. The story of struggle, survival, and relentless ambition had matured into a story of influence, vision, and global leadership. As China stepped further into the global spotlight, its ambitions extended far beyond domestic prosperity. The country's international strategy became a central pillar of its 21st century narrative. The Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, launched in 2013, exemplified this vision, an enormous infrastructure and trade project connecting Asia, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Through the BRI, China financed ports, railways, highways, and energy projects in dozens of countries. While some critics labeled it as a tool for geopolitical leverage, supporters emphasized economic development, job creation, and global connectivity. China's growing economic clout also translated into diplomatic influence. With membership in international organizations, multilateral trade agreements, and climate initiatives, China positioned itself as an indispensable actor in global affairs. The nation consistently promoted a vision of shared development, emphasizing cooperation over confrontation, while simultaneously asserting its sovereignty and regional interests. This balance of diplomacy and assertiveness often sparked debate among global leaders and analysts, illustrating the complex reality of China's rise. In parallel, China invested heavily in soft power. Cultural exports such as cinema, literature, art, and digital content spread Chinese ideas and aesthetics worldwide. Mandarin language programs expanded in schools across multiple continents. Tech companies like Huawei, TikTok, and Tencent not only represented business success, but also served as cultural ambassadors, shaping global perceptions of modern Chinese society. This soft power complemented China's hard power in trade, military modernization, and infrastructure. Technological advancement remained a cornerstone of China's global influence. The country's investments in artificial intelligence, robotics, quantum computing, and space exploration demonstrated its determination to compete with, and even surpass, other major powers. By 2025, China had successfully launched several lunar and Mars missions, bolstering its scientific prestige. Innovations in AI, biotechnology, and green technology allowed China to claim leadership in industries that would define the future economy. Economically, China's domestic transformation fueled its international role. By moving from low-cost manufacturing to high-value industries, it became a hub for global innovation. Startups and state-owned enterprises alike contributed to a diverse economic ecosystem. The middle class expanded rapidly, domestic consumption surged, and urbanization created a sophisticated market for technology, education, and culture. These trends allowed China to leverage internal development into global influence. However, the rise was not without tension. Territorial disputes in the South China Sea, trade conflicts with the United States, and competition in technology and intellectual property raised geopolitical stakes. China's leadership often emphasized diplomacy, yet demonstrated readiness to defend its strategic interests when necessary. This dual approach, combining cooperation and assertiveness, became a defining feature of its foreign policy. Socially, China faced the challenge of balancing tradition with modernization. Rapid urbanization and global exposure introduced new lifestyles, ideas, and pressures. While younger generations embraced innovation and global culture, traditional values of family, discipline, and collective identity remained influential. The government encouraged this balance through policies supporting cultural heritage, moral education, and civic engagement, aiming to create a society that was both modern and rooted in historical identity. In sum, China's journey from the perilous seas of migrants decades ago to global leadership in the 21st century reflects a remarkable transformation. Its influence is economic, technological, cultural, and strategic. The nation demonstrates how resilience, long-term vision, and adaptability can convert historical struggle into global leadership. The stage is set for China to continue shaping the world in ways that few could have imagined a century ago. As we reach the end of this journey through China's incredible transformation, it is astonishing to reflect on how far the country has come. From the days when ordinary people risked their lives crossing the sea in search of survival and opportunity, to becoming a global economic and technological powerhouse, China's story is one of resilience, vision, and determination. It is a testament to the human spirit and the power of long-term planning, even in the face of unimaginable hardship. China today is no longer a silent observer on the global stage. Its economic influence reaches every continent, its technological advancements push the boundaries of innovation, and its cultural presence resonates worldwide. Cities bustle with activity, industries thrive, and its young population increasingly engages with the world, contributing to a new era of global interconnectivity. The nation has proven that strategic patience, careful planning, and investment in people and ideas can transform not only a country's economy, but also its place in history. Yet the rise of China is not just a story of numbers and power, it is also a story of human lives and perseverance. The sacrifices of countless individuals, the dreams of those who braved the seas, and the generations that endured poverty and oppression form the foundation of the modern Chinese narrative. Every skyscraper, technological breakthrough, and international project carries within it echoes of these struggles, reminding the world that progress is built upon resilience. Looking forward, China faces both opportunities and challenges. Maintaining sustainable growth, navigating international relations, and ensuring social cohesion will define the next chapters of its story. But if history is any guide, China has shown an extraordinary ability to adapt, innovate, and overcome obstacles. Its trajectory suggests that the country will continue to shape global economics, politics, culture, and technology in the decades to come. For those who watch from afar, China's journey serves as a powerful lesson. That adversity can catalyze ambition, that vision paired with action can transform nations, and that even the most daunting challenges can be turned into unprecedented achievements. From tragedy to triumph, from obscurity to global prominence, China's narrative is a living testament to the extraordinary possibilities inherent in determination, leadership, and human ingenuity. As I, Methun, sign off from this deep dive with Romanchopedia, remember that history is never static. It is a continuous story written by the choices, dreams, and actions of those who dare to shape the future. China's journey reminds us that the tides of time favor those who prepare, persevere, and envision a better world. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of resilience, transformation, and ambition. The seas may have once been treacherous, but the horizon now gleams with possibilities.